Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. I am your host tonight, Jim Delfino. Tampa Bay, game one, and let me tell you, nothing screams playoff baseball like a half empty dome in Florida where the loudest noise is a kid asking his mom for more Dippin' Dots. This place has all the atmosphere of a DMV waiting room, but somehow the Rays turn into the 27 Yankees when the Boston Red Sox show up. If you looked at your TV close enough, you could see Nick Diamond in the seats giving lectures about the infield fly roll and how it ruins the game. Joining me tonight is the immortal Nick Face. Nick watched this one like a guy who just found out his car warranty really did expire. He's pacing, tweeting manifestos in all caps, yelling at strangers online who still have Aaron Judge in their profile picture. If anger was a stat, Nick would have a 10 plus war. The man's got more passion than Weisert's got hanging curveballs, and that's saying something. Also joining me is the consummate professional, Thayer Doyle. Watching the Red Sox with him is like sitting through Catholic Mass with a guy who keeps whispering, technically the priest's footwork is all wrong. He's got that Irish intensity, calm until the Sox strand the bases loaded. Then he looks like he's about to deliver a halftime speech straight out of Braveheart. You can picture it. They may take our bets, but they'll never take our fundamentals. Let's get into it. Your Boston Red Sox are now 84 and 70, and the Red Sox actually scored 11 runs. Yeah, I know, 11. You don't usually see that unless you're playing MLB The Show on rookie mode. And even then, you probably messed it up because you're too busy eating chips. Early on, it was a classic Sox. First inning, bases juiced, big chance, and nothing. Story struck out looking like he just remembered his laundry was still in the dryer. Fans everywhere groaned, "Oh, here we go again." Then Tampa answers back with a run, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, this is nice. Red Sox invented a new way to trail in the first inning. But wait, then comes Bregman launching one into the seats. Of course, he didn't do it with guys on base. Why would he? That would be efficient. By the third, the Rays hit a couple bombs, Sox are down, and I'm already eyeing the collapse. Because what else can you do when your team looks allergic to clutch hitting? Then in the seventh rolls around, Jaron Duran, boom, two-run home run out of nowhere, like he just remembered he is allowed to hit balls fair and far. Suddenly, it's 4-3, and you're like, wait a minute, the Sox are battling. And then the eighth inning happened, 7 runs. It was like the Rays infield suddenly became a beer league softball team. Errors were everywhere. Walks, hits batting, and bad throws. It was like watching someone try to carry 6 grocery bags and dropping every single one in the driveway. Yoshida scores on a hit by pitch. Duran scores on an error. Story scores on another error. It was so sloppy, even Little League coaches were like, fundamentals, guys. Duran caps it with a single. Rafaela drives in more. Eaton keeps it rolling, and the next thing you know, it's 11-3. You could almost hear the Tropicana Field crowd, all 12 of them, just sighing in unison. Zach Kelly comes in, and he didn't even give the Rays a fancy mercy run. He just got 3 quick outs. Then in the ninth, comes in Mop Up Murphy with 4 hits, 4 runs, and a grand slam later. The Red Sox had him right where they want him. Final score, your Red Sox 11, Tampa Bay Rays 7. Your Red Sox are now, well, still frustrating, but hey, tonight they look like the 1927 Yankees, at least for 8 minutes. And now, it's time for Nick Face's Word of the Day.
And now it's time for Nick Face's Word of the Day.
I'm going to cut right to the chase tonight. Oppie, as in opposite field. That is my word of the night. That came from our good buddy, who is none other than Cedane Rafaela. What a difference it was with seeing a different approach from him, driving the ball the other way, waiting it out a little bit in the box, and finding some spots out in the right center field gaps tonight. Ended up having a 4-for-5 night. I saw him smile. I saw him having fun. It's an approach that I didn't know if he was going to be able to succeed with. I love what they've done with it. It's one game. I need to see this sustained over the long haul, but I hated the approach from him from the beginning. That long ball pull stroke was not doing him any favors. Wait for your pitch, drive the ball the other way, get on base, manufacture runs, and that's what his job should be. Kudos to him for an awesome night tonight and being my shining star player tonight, Cedane Rafaela. Your word tonight, Oppie.
Nick Face's word of the day is brought to you by the Massachusetts Lottery, because your odds of hitting the jackpot are better than the Sox hitting with runners in scoring position. Thayer, your opening reactions to tonight's ball game.
Well, they postponed execution. That's kind of how I see it. Crochet pitched well. He is spent like every other pitcher we have. Impressed that the Red Sox actually managed to score some runs and keep it going. Granted, a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were facing a pitcher, and when they finally put it away, that is making his major league debut, and the Rays did their best Red Sox impersonation defensively to give us runs. At the same time, the fact that Rafaela, was putting the bat on the ball, barreling it up, Bregman's doing the same thing. The only shot they have coming down this stretch is if they can actually hit the ball. I like the aggression early on, getting that runner home, sending him, because if you looked at it, the next batter struck out and then there was a ground ball. It's very possible they weren't going to score that run anyway. So I think they just have to continue to do that. They have to continue to put the pressure on, take the chances. Listening to the game a lot, Merloni's talking bunt, bunt, bunt. That's what we've been talking about for weeks. I hope they can start to do some of those sort of things. It makes yesterday's loss even more frustrating. But hey, we're magic numbers down to 7. Yay.
Yeah, Cleveland just took a 6-2 lead heading into the bottom of the ninth. The Twins had tied it early on. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be a Cleveland victory again. Talk about Garrett Crochet tonight. He wasn't that sharp. 6 innings, 3 runs, 9 strikeouts. I mean, on paper, it looks good, but, if you watch the game, he just wasn't as crisp as we would have needed. And, in hindsight, yeah, you score 11 runs, but this could have been a game that put the nail in the coffin. Thayer, I'll start with you.
Yeah, he's worn out. We've sort of been following it every time he's pitching on regular rest. His ERA is at least a run higher. So, but he's got to go. He's got to pitch. And that's the unfortunate situation that they put themselves in. They can't sort of extend him a little bit to get him an extra day's rest because they need him to pitch as many games as possible to give us a shot to win. So I hope for all they can handle their business the next 2 games, maybe get themselves a break, and then maybe get him a rest if by some miracle they make the playoffs. They need to get him as long a rest as possible before that first game.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of wiggle room for any kind of Crochet losses. Nick, what did you see from Garrett Crochet tonight?
The biggest concern here for me is the middle fastball, which is getting tattooed and out of the park. It's become an ongoing problem for Crochet, and I am concerned about that. I think location for him has been shaky in the past month, and you could chalk it up to fatigue. You could chalk it up to laboring through some of these starts. He hasn't ever done any sort of innings total that he's had this season. It's catching up to him. And that's why when we kept on talking about, you got to win all these next Crochet starts, you got to win all these ones throughout the rest of the season, the back of my mind is saying, these are no slam dunks. They're not, guys. Not with what you have right now. They're just not. So I want us to make sure we pump the brakes here a little bit with making sure Garrett Crochet starts are automatic wins. This was a struggle here tonight. At times, I was saying to myself, it was 3-2 at one point, Rays, up until that Duran big home run. I was saying to myself, it's just not good enough. Your ace has to go out there and steal games. And he gave up 3 runs, still a quality start. I don't want to knock him. I don't want to do any of that. But I just want to make sure that we articulate the fact that it's been not as crisp, I think is the word to use for Crochet in this past month. It's a long season. It's tough. It's a grind. I get it. But we are on this much room here to breathe. That much. And you have to take every single game as serious as you can if you truly want a spot here in the playoffs, which I still think is still up for grabs. Tonight does not move the needle for me whatsoever. Tonight was one of those games where you got lucky with bad defense from the Rays. You got lucky with really bad pitching, and the Red Sox took advantage of that and capitalized. They got some great at-bats from Rafaela. Duran with the big home run. I loved Nate Eaton's game tonight. He is growing on me. I want to make sure that we talk about that maybe a little bit. But overall here, it was a big thank you from the Rays.
Yeah, looking a little bit at Crochet in kind of like the microscope. In the month of September, he's had 3 starts. He's pitched 19 innings in those 3 starts, 17 hits, so almost a hit an inning, 10 earned runs, 6 home runs, only 1 walk, which is good, 26 strikeouts, but he's definitely been subjected to the long ball and, of course, runs in particular. But again, they've won all 3 of his starts in September. So that's the key thing here is that if he's got one more start left, I think it is 2 more starts, whatever it might be. They can't take any chances. He's got to come through, and he's got to try to pitch a little bit better because we may not get that offensive production like we did tonight. And there was really no telling that we were going to get that early on either. Nick, you brought up Nate Eaton. He's one of our topics tonight. All of a sudden, he's been Mike Trout. In the month of September, 14 for 34 with a home run and 2 RBIs. The 2 RBIs was a surprise, but he's done well. And Nick, you brought it up in the situation room, so I'll let you start.
I wanted him to hit a home run so bad in that 8th inning. He had 2 long foul balls down the left field side. He crushed it. But what I like about Nate Eaton's game is he's a hustler. He's always getting dirty. He's always doing something heads up in a way for a player to help the team. Sometimes those heads up plays can turn to mistakes. I think it's still because he's raw and young and trying to find his place and also find his role here on this team. He's been playing a little bit more in right field with Wilyer Abreu being down, and it's a spot where I've been growing a little bit more comfortable with him there and seeing what he can do. Wilyer Abreu is, according to Cora, likely to be boarding a plane, whether it's today or tonight, and in Tampa tomorrow. Who knows? And what that could be is maybe that's your DH. I do want to make sure we emphasize, though, with Nate Eaton, I want to see Nate Eaton in the lineup over any more times of Yoshida. Nate Eaton needs to play over Yoshida. Yoshida, just go away. I'm done. I don't want to see him play another game for the Red Sox. I don't.
Thayer, your take and thoughts on Nate Eaton and what you've seen.
I've been impressed. He's like Nick said, he's hustling. He's doing the little things. He's taking advantage of the opportunity that's presented to him. It sort of reminds me a little bit about Abraham Toro earlier on. Got the opportunity, came up and did what he needed to do. We can't rely on him. That's the problem. He is not going to be the person to get us into the promised land. If he is, then we're struggling. Bregman needs to be doing this. Story needs to be doing this. Duran needs to be doing this. Thankfully, Eaton's doing something to keep us going. But again, he is who he is. So we have to remember that. He's not Mike Trout.
No, but
there's
playing.
A little bit of comparison to Romy Gonzalez with Nate Eaton a little bit. Yeah. You could make that comparison, and I emphasize that because we've relied on Romy Gonzalez so much, and you do see him get exposed at times. And I do think we will see Nate Eaton get exposed if you have to count on him for a long-standing period of time.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Again, it's just a joke, but the bottom line is that to your point there, he won't be the guy to bring us to the promised land. I agree with you, but at the same time, we have to worry about not getting automatic outs in that lineup. And if he can be a guy that just isn't an automatic out like Cedane Rafaela has basically been for the month of September, then we stand a chance. I mean, again, he scored that first run. He had that hit and run with Nathaniel Lowe. He's got the speed. So to Nick's point, I've kind of turned a little bit positive on him. I've made some tweets in the past that says he's not a major league player. Again, it could just be a couple weeks here that he's having a good little run, but I'll take it, and we need it. And that's the bottom line on Nate Eaton. Moving right along, Justin Slayton looks like he might be back to being the Justin Slayton that we saw early in the year, who was really nasty. He came back from this injury, and he really wasn't really having a really great fastball. He was kind of like in the 94 range. He hit 98 today. I think that was the fastest that I saw. I don't know if you guys saw anything higher than that. But again, another great outing for Slayton. I've mentioned this in the podcast before. If he could be a reliable seventh inning guy, and then you have Whitlock and Chapman in that bullpen at the end in the playoffs, you might have something there. Nick, I'll start with you.
That was nasty tonight. I used the word filthy because you saw command on. I love when Justin Slayton is on the hill talking to himself. And when he does that, that means he's locked in and he's focused and he's driven. He's like a nutcase out there on the mound. And when that nutcase is out there, when he's doing his job, it's almost in a way like a Papelbon, kind of like psychotic in a way when he's out there. And that's why I think there's been some chatter before about him being a potential closer down the line. Obviously, right now it's a matter of getting him healthy, getting him back into the pitcher that we've grown accustomed to, with seeing electric fastball, couple different style pitches that he also has for off speed. This tonight was a huge step in the right direction for solidifying that seventh inning slot, which we've so desperately needed, especially with a right-handed reliever. If Justin Slayton can be that guy, your seventh is covered. Could be him with a combination of Justin Wilson, Steven Matz, even Peyton Tolley after what he did the other night. Then you can go to Whitlock for your eighth, and then you have Chapman for the ninth. And then Weissert and the rest of the Goon squad doesn't even have to show their face anymore, including Chris Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think all of us envisioned earlier in the year. I know I have, and I've brought up many, many times. There, you'll remember the Nasty Boys, the Cincinnati Reds, 1990. They didn't have the greatest starting rotation, but after 6 innings, if you didn't score and have the lead, forget it. You were done. There was no hitting Charlton, no hitting Randy Myers, and no hitting Rob Dibble. And Rob Dibble went to my high school there too, same town. But the reality is that if we can get that, it could gel at the right time. You never know. You get into this postseason, you never know where that can go. So, hopefully it can. And as it relates to everybody else, if it allows them to kind of have Cora set that bullpen in a little bit more of a, I don't know, like an operating procedure, as opposed to just drawing straws each and every night with what you're going to do with your pen. If you go, like, for example, if Kyle Harrison tomorrow pitches 5 innings, and then let's say that a Peyton Tolley comes in to finish the 5th, 6th, and then you had a Slayton, Whitlock, and Chapman, and I'm just using this as a hypothetical. I know he just pitched tonight, won't probably pitch tomorrow. But that's the kind of thing that you could say, you know what, if I can get a guy like Tolley to be a middle innings strikeout guy and just have that back end of the bullpen set where I know I can just go 6 innings and then, get through that sixth, and then you've got a great end of that bullpen. There are your thoughts.
I completely agree. And that's why when we were talking earlier on, we talked about they could be dangerous in a playoff situation. With the back end the way it is, with Whitlock and Chapman, you have the 8th and the 9th locked down. Slayton coming back into form solidifies that 7th. You sort of use the nasty boys. I equate it a little bit more towards the Yankees of '96 when they had Nelson and Stanton leading up to Rivera. That sort of thing where you had two guys that were capable of doing what they needed to do. And that's sort of this situation here. If they could only get themselves together to get into the playoffs, there's a very good chance they could be dangerous because they have Crochet and then they have the back end of that bullpen. And a little bit of rest for Bayo, maybe, who knows. And like you said, once you get to the playoffs, that's when things start to mix and match. Totally becomes more of a weapon. You have, probably going to be using, the early kid a little bit more as a weapon. He's not going to really need to start in a 3-game series, so he's going to be sitting in the bullpen. You're going to have options and opportunities to do things. The key is to get there, and that's what's so frustrating about the way they've been playing.
Yeah, and the other thing about the playoffs too, you hear this a million times, and it's an old saying that you manage differently in the playoffs than you do during the regular season, and it's so true. And in this particular situation, if you have a 5-game, 7-game series, if you get screwed in one of them and you're down early, that's the time you bring Weissert in. You've already given the white flag on that game, and you worry about the next one. You don't try to salvage it by bringing in Whitlock down 2 or even maybe down 1. You just got to try to, use those guys when they're going to be the most effective. Moving right along, Nick brought this up earlier. There is now a rumor that Willie Abreu has a ticket on a Velo Airlines to rejoin the Red Sox in Tampa tomorrow. We're not sure what time he'll arrive, but I'm sure that we will keep you posted because this is very important. And Cora also said, I'm being sarcastic in case anybody really doesn't know it. Cora also said that there's a chance he plays. So he may be going down there just to watch. I don't know. But there is a chance he could play. My answer to that is if he's not going to play, why are you wasting the ticket? Thayer, your thoughts on Abreu?
He's going to get in the lineup. They're having him down there, if nothing else, to come off the bench. So it's just coach speak. It's the way they're doing things.
Get that crap out of here. So I'd rather Hamilton over Abreu right now. No,
he's going to be there. He's going to play. Chances are they'll DH him, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. Maybe he runs into one. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. Nick is trying to debug the screen with Hamiltons that keep showing up. So
raid.
It's time for let's see. Let's go with the wild card watch.
And now it's time for the wild card watch.
All right, Wild Card Watch is powered by AAA Roadside Assistance because this Sox playoff push breaks down more than an 88 Honda Civic on I-95. So the Red Sox magic number now is 7. We have a final on that Guardians game.
Cleveland won.
Figured that would happen. The New York Yankees lost to Baltimore. And it looks like Toronto lost to Kansas City. So the updated wild card settings and stats are: we are still we're tied with Houston right now. and the Guardians are a game and a half out. Question to both of you. Nick, I'll start with you. Do you feel any more better about the Red Sox after tonight's win?
Absolutely not, especially that last inning. I mean, come on. You had to get Chapman up, and it was 11-3 going in the ninth inning. And here we go again. We don't have anybody else in the pen who can be a mop-up guy, who can close it out, so we don't have to worry about our high-leverage guys getting up. So Chapman ramped up like he was going in. He threw another probably 10, 15 pitches, full strength. That's kind of in a way like him going into a game. So I hope that doesn't waste him for tomorrow if you need him, because that's just irritating, wrong, and never should happen on that front. In terms of the lineup from tonight, 11 runs is a little flawed statistically. If you look at that number, 11-7 game, excuse me, it looks like they really scored a lot and they hit the ball hard. Not really. Jaron Duran had a great 2-run home run. I'll give it to him. Rafaela contributed there, but there were a lot of errors and miscues here from the Rays. Let's not overlook that. There was Trevor Story with an 0 for 6 or 0 for 5 night. I can't remember exactly what his stat line was, but they can't have that, especially after we had just complimented him last night. This always happens. Every time we compliment the man, he goes into a tailspin and stinks up the house. Guys, we can't do it anymore. If he goes on another heater as the season goes on, ignore it. Ignore it. Just say what you want inside and don't let it out. Don't let it out. You can't do it. Outside of that, this does not change how I feel. This does not change my continued thought process here towards the end of this season. I still think that upcoming series in Toronto and with Detroit to end the season they're going to be very tough, depending upon what you get. And I can't see the Red Sox getting into the wild card playoff. I can't.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say, and if they do, my money's on it's going to be one game and they're done.
Thayer, what are your thoughts on the wild card at this point? Has the victory tonight changed your thought process at all?
No, it hasn't changed it really. And the only thing that's changing my thought process is kind of going back to your idea that the Red Sox are going to make the playoffs despite themselves. And really the only path I see is Detroit gagging more than us. Because right now we're only a game behind Detroit. And Detroit got obliterated today. And that's another game that they lost. So if they continue to slump, then those games, we're playing them that last weekend. And we're like, oh, Detroit's a team. They may be as bad as us right now. So there's a possibility there. We also need Seattle. After they won today, we need them to sweep that series. If they take care of the Astros, we're a game behind the Astros. We almost need everybody to just lose. That's our only route into this whole thing. If, like you said, if somehow the bats can come alive, and this is not just an aberration, where if we can put some runs together and take the rest of this series, then maybe I'll have some hope going into that Toronto series. But I got a feeling Toronto's gunning for us, and then we'll see with Detroit. But right now, I am still not very optimistic because tomorrow we have Harrison.
So the Cleveland Guardians are 18-4 in their last 22 games.
They're rolling.
They were 15 games out of first place. Yep. I believe it was in the middle or end of August. And that is in consideration that in middle of August, they were in a span 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, where they were 1-9. So they've completely turned it around. And Thayer, you just kind of brought. I didn't even realize this until you kind of just brought it up. But the wild card withstanding, Cleveland is only 2.5 out of that division lead. And they
Yep.
have a 3-game series with Detroit coming up Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
It's
So,
huge.
yeah, I mean, it didn't even realize that we could be fighting the Tigers for that final wild card spot. Nick, your
Yep.
final thoughts for tonight, including any comments on that?
Yeah, that is definitely stunning too. I was going to ask Thayer if he thought that the Guardians would overtake the Tigers.
I I wouldn't be surprised. The Tigers are a
I'm
ball
leaning
club
that way
that's
too.
the Tigers are built like us. They rely on Scooble, and then they have a lot of athletic guys. They don't have a lot of big names. The only difference is our bullpen is the back end of our bullpen is better than theirs. So, like their second and third starters, Mize is not doing what he's done. Flaherty isn't doing what he's done in the past, and that's a ball club that last year they made it down the stretch, sort of playing the right way and being young and kind of being naive to the whole thing and sort of sat on Scooble. Scooble's hurt, I think. That they let him have his start, but he's not the same guy. He's not as dominant down the stretch as he was last year. And we saw him get beat yesterday. He's going to pitch against Cleveland again. That's probably the next start for him. So we'll see how that all goes.
I'm looking at. I could see the Red Sox taking 2 or 3 here from the Rays. I can. I could see tomorrow being a throwaway game because you don't know what to expect really with Harrison. Sunday, I like Conley early. I would say let's see what happens on that. We already saw the Rays tonight with their miscues and everything, so it's there for the taking. I'm super nervous about the Toronto series. I don't see us getting one win in that series. I really don't. I don't. And it's gonna come down to the Tigers series. That's where I'm at. And it's
Yeah.
gonna be a matter of which team is worse. Is it the Red Sox or is it the Tigers? And if you do get Screwball, which I think you will in one of those games, I have to chalk that up to the Tigers for one. So to see us sneak away, say we get one more win on Sunday, there's one, and then maybe 2 more against the Tigers. That means for me, bare minimum, I'd give them 3 more wins, maybe, to end this season. I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough, guys. And I'm being realistic here. I'm trying to see what I'm seeing in front of me and know the matchups with what tomorrow looks like and then where Sunday's at. Our 3-game set against the Blue Jays in Toronto. So that's another thing. We do not play great on the road. We come back to Fenway, which we haven't been great with lately. Maybe 3 wins is too high. I don't know if they're going to get it.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of quickly before we wrap up tonight. So I'm looking at this, and with the matchups that are already in place for this Detroit series at the end of the season, they're showing Flaherty for game 1. They haven't announced a game 2 or game 3 starter. We have Early and Giolito for game 2 and 3. We do not have a game 1 starter. Crochet is scheduled to pitch Thursday in Toronto on that 3rd game of that series. And Scooble would be in line to pitch Sunday, September 28th, against us in the last game of the season. I'm wondering, depending on how that Toronto series starts off, maybe game 1 or game 2, whether Cora would maybe push Crochet back into that Detroit series, especially if it's a meaningful game. They may want to consider doing that. So that will be an interesting development as we get closer. But yeah, it's really unfortunate because until you really brought that to our attention there, I really didn't even give it much thought as to how we could still actually come away with missing out on the postseason, it wouldn't even be a Guardian situation. It'd be a Detroit situation. And I hate the fact that we might have to play a meaningful game against Detroit in that final 3-game series when you're trying to set up your rotation for the playoff run. So that'll be an interesting development for sure that we're going to have to watch extremely closely like a knife. Just a couple quick shout outs on the chats. Eric, who's a listener, Rafael had a big game tonight finally. I hope he's snapping out of it. I mean, we're not going to know until we know, but we're going to need some offensive output out of him. We can't just have an automatic out at the bottom of that lineup. Eric also writes, needs to play, at least come off the bench tomorrow. He can't be worse than Yoshida. I think you're referring to Nate Eaton there.
No. I think he's talking about Abreu.
Abreu. Okay. Yeah, sure. Maybe
he'll strike out.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, would they DH him? I don't know if they don't want to have him play the field. Obviously, you want his glove out there, but I think Nick, you had a comment on it earlier because I'd rather have Nate Eaton than Yoshida as my DH. And then his final comment, be positive, Nick.
Go to my Twitter tonight. All I was positive tonight.
Yeah.
Come on, Eric. That's all I was. I was positive with Durant's home run. I said Nate Eaton's been a spark and has been a great player. I was happy with Rafaela tonight. But I'm not going to be happy with Chris Murphy coming into a game, giving up a grand slam, and getting up your closer. Come on. That can't happen.
Yeah.
The lineup still has holes. Story went 0 for 5. You can't have that.
Yeah, Chris Murphy was definitely the dugout dipshit for tonight.
Yes, absolutely. I agree on that wholeheartedly.
We'll give it a run so everybody can hear it.
And now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, the Dugout Dipshits.
Dugout Dipshits is brought to you by the new Ray-Ban rose-colored glasses, the official eyewear of Red Sox Twitter. Because when you're convinced this bullpen is elite and every 3-game skid is just part of the plan, you're not watching baseball, you're squinting through Ray-Bans. And again, Dugout Dipshit is Chris Murphy. Thanks for trying to blow the game. That's all the time we've got for tonight. We will see you probably Sunday. The Red Sox have a day off on Monday, so we'll probably do a Sunday show. I'd like to thank Thayer and Nick for being on tonight with us. And go ahead and subscribe to our digital newsletter at RedSoxDigest.com, where we have daily articles on the recaps of the games, as well as Fenway Flashback, charting the 1975 baseball season of the Red Sox. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.